everybody, and welcome to the first full week of August. We are in week 2 because last week we had kind of a mix between July and August. My name is Christa of Practical Astros. I'm here with Sonia of Celestia Astrology, and we are going to walk you through the astrology of the week. We are looking at Wednesday to Wednesday, Mercury Day to Mercury Day, August 6th through August 13th. So, hi, Sonia.
Good to be back.
Same. Last week we looked at Venus ingress into Cancer, the Mercury Cazimi, Venus immediately squaring Saturn, and then a few days later, Mars going into Libra. And this week is a big week. We're going to have a full moon in Aquarius, and then Mars, having moved into Libra, is going to oppose Saturn in Aries and Neptune in Aries, and then trining Uranus and Pluto. So quite a lot of things building up. And then Mercury will go direct in Leo, and then Venus will meet Jupiter in Cancer. This is a transit that people have been talking about all year, and we're going to talk about it today. What are your thoughts on the week?
Oh, too quick.
We can look at that. The next slide just shows the week, so let's look at
the week
that
as well.
I love that. I found this graphic on archive.org, this beautiful old graphic of the zodiac, the sun and the moon.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. So beautiful. That full moon in Aquarius being about the collective and opposite the sun in Leo, it brings everything in. And then suddenly we've got the Malefics opposing each other, Mars and Saturn. And yeah, that really affects everybody when we talk about who's affected. When we talk about sect, people have one benefic and one malefic and one luminary in their sect. But when you get both of them in the same way that we've got at the end of the week, both benefics, which is always nice, but at the beginning of the week, we've got both malefics. So it just brings everybody into this week.
Yeah.
Because everybody's getting something challenging at the beginning. And I'd like to say it's going to be quite quick, but the build-up, I think, is more, and Mars moves slower than Venus does. So that benefic energy will be a little bit quicker than this difficulty. And when we say about malefics, they're really talking about the badder things in life, that we're not looking away from the fact that difficult things happen. Windows get broken, people trip and fall over, and life isn't all sweetness and light. These planets represent those things that we find difficult and the things that we can't look away from. When Mars is connecting with all of these outer, slower planets, I think we're all going to feel it in some kind of way. Those planets that are all connected. But yeah, we'll look at those charts and talk about it. And then right sandwiched in the middle of that is our friend Hermes going direct. It's like he's saying, hi, remember me? I've got a message for you. You've got this difficult stuff going on, and then there's going to be nice stuff. It's like this little sandwich. And Mercury pops up with something to tell us as he's turning direct in Leo. And that's something about our self-sovereignty, our authenticity in Leo. We've had this difficult time as he's been retrograding, or not, if it doesn't affect you. The retrogrades don't always affect everybody, but the fixed signs maybe are likely to feel it the most. And those fixed signs are the ones that are the least comfortable with the change and the upheaval. So maybe they have a more difficult time than the cardinals and the mutables with a Mercury retrograde, because we really don't. I'm very fixed in my chart. Really don't. I like the routine, and the curveballs that Mercury will throw can be challenging to deal with. So it can be an uncomfortable time. So it's nice when he goes direct and we can begin to figure our way out of it and start to figure out what he's been teaching us. And then we can look forward to this nice ending to the week, this nice gift that comes at the end of all this hard work.
Yeah. I mean, also speaking as someone with a lot of fixed placements, we need that disruption the most, because we are happy to get back into a routine, and like having someone else choose and shake it up for us, while very frustrating in the moment, is also so good for us. When you were talking about sect, and if you're born with the sun above the horizon, your day sect, sun below the horizon, your night sect, it's almost like different work shifts. If you have like the graveyard shift and then the early morning shift, a lot of times different weeks or seasons of astrology will focus on one modality or one element or one sign. Even just gets a lot. A weekend like this, when we say it's a lot going on, it really does. It's like a full office meeting of all the shift workers, regardless of what shift you work, regardless of what modality, or sign or element. Like everybody is kind of being pulled into this meeting that's happening over the weekend. It's being illuminated by that full moon. That the malefics, like you said, they're going to be in opposition to each other, and the benefics are going to be merging together. So it's like everybody really is there. And then sandwiched between is that Mercury that is going direct in Leo. We'll have had the Cazimi at the very end of July. And so this is going direct, where the Mercury will Cazimi later on in Virgo. But I do like this Mercury direct right there in the middle of the month, just prior to that benefic meeting on the 12th. It's like we get the bad stuff out of the way first, and then silver linings come after the clouds. So that's kind of what this weekend, or this whole week, kind of looks like.
Yeah, it's like the dust settling and you get to clear up and see the shiny stuff underneath it.
Yeah.
When you have work done on your house or something, everything's thrown up in the air and there's all this disruption and upheaval. But at the end of it, you get new stuff that works, and it works better than what you had before.
Yeah. For example, yesterday we did some recordings, and I finally, out of frustration, realized that I hated all of my chairs because they make my back hurt. And so I went and got a new yoga ball, which I'm sitting on right now, and it's so much better. And the thing about Malefics is that they propel us to change when things are not working. And so, Malefics give us limitations and they sever us from things, but they also propel us to make shifts. And a lot of times that's what we need. That's part of growth. And after that painful shift or recognition that we need to shift, we do get some of the goodness that comes after. So this weekend is a nice reflection of how that can operate in astrology.
Yeah, because it's important to realize, if life was all sweet and good, you wouldn't even recognize the sweetness and the goodness, because you would be having it every day. You wouldn't appreciate and enjoy it. And it's only because we experience those ebbs and flows, those ups and downs, that we learn to really appreciate the good stuff. A sunny day, a nice picnic with loved ones or something, and we say, oh, this is really nice, and you enjoy it, because there's days that aren't like that are challenging and frustrating. And I think that's what astrology gives us, is just that heads up of knowing, and especially when we know days like this, when it's going to be affecting nearly everybody, is that we've got that awareness that it's affecting people around us as well in different kinds of ways. So give some grace to those around you, because they may be experiencing different stories in different parts of their lives. But whatever we're going through, remember that everybody else is going through something. And I think that's really what one of the gifts of astrology is that knowledge as well that it brings.
Compassion.
Yes. Yeah.
Put the compassion mask on yourself first, though, so that you can give compassion to others.
Absolutely. And if you can't, just zip it and don't say anything. Don't enter into arguments at that time, because it's not likely to end well.
Right.
It's likely to escalate with that difficult aspects. So the full moon, do you want to take us away with that?
Sure. Yeah. So we the luminaries, the sun and the moon, only have one place that they find a home. All the other planets have two homes. So the sun is only at home in Leo, and the sun is currently in Leo. And when the full moon happens, it's when the moon is in the opposite position of the sun. So we have the sun at 16 degrees, almost 17 degrees Leo, and then the moon at 16 degrees, 59 minutes Aquarius. So this moment of full moon is that full reflection of the sun's light. And if we look at where this is going to be kind of affecting people, we look at, okay, well, the sun and the moon are in fixed signs, fixed fire, fixed air. So it's going to hit the fixed angles if you are a fixed rising Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius, Taurus, or if you have a luminary in either Leo or Aquarius, you will probably feel this. But in Hellenistic astrology, the ascending sign kind of sets the stage for all of the other houses. So the fixed rising signs are going to have it hit in their first, 10th, 7th, and 4th, which are usually the loudest in a chart. And so this full moon will illuminate all of the big topics in life. The first house of self, the 10th house of like how we're seen, often our career, job, 10th house of relationships and other people, and the 4th house of home, ancestors, that sort of a thing. So yeah, I mean, there's other things going on. Like we're going to see this, malefic opposition as well. It will have already perfected at that point, but it's right there in the mix. And then, Mars going into Libra, Mars in Libra is an air sign. What we also have in air signs are Pluto and Aquarius at 2 degrees and Uranus and Gemini at 1 degree. So Mars is not only opposing Saturn during this full moon, but it's in a trine to those two outers. And because Mars moves faster than the outer planets, it's going to kind of activate, which is its job, whatever air triad story is happening in your life. Everybody has all of the air signs, whether they have planets in it or not. They rule a topic of life for you. And I find that Mars going in there might kind of unlock that story, unlock the whispers that have been kind of going back and forth between Pluto and Uranus. So those are my initial thoughts. What are you thinking?
With Aquarius, we've got to remember it's the exile of the sun and ruled by Saturn. So we've got to think about it as this, like you say, it's this airy place. It's the air triad that's getting activated with these planets, but also the sun is opposite that place where the moon is. We were going to say, I'm going to start sharing my astro mindfulness, because those who follow me will know that I do astro mindfulness on the full moons, and I've recently just started a decan walk. So I'll be doing astro mindfulness for this particular decan. It's aligning with this energy, but also eventually it will build up a library that you can go back to. So if you've got placements in this decan, if your sun, moon, rising is there,
or your icy,
yeah, or your icy, then yeah, I mean, obviously this full moon will hit, but you'll have something that you can go back to that tells the story of this decan. And this decan is ruled by Mercury, so that brings this Mercury in Leo in, and also it's a double Mercury decan. Austin Coppock, I did his course on decans, and he uses this double rulership. So we've got a lot of Mercury coming into play, and obviously Mercury being present in Leo as well just adds that emphasis. It's co-present with the sun and opposite the moon. Mercury really wants to share the message just before it's going direct. It's got something about its retrograde that's coming through with us as well, with that decan. And Austin Coppock calls this decan heaven and earth, which just is really telling. And Kira Ryberg, the astrologer, calls it translation. And as well, if you follow me, you'll know that I use the Wild Way Oracle deck to tell my decan stories. And that's by Nicola Allen. And she also calls it spaces in between. So it's thinking of Mercury as this traveller, messenger planet that travels across borders. And it's the only planet that can, apart from the moon as well, translating for us and bringing messages down to Earth. So it's a really good way of bringing those messages in from these airy places, and also these other planets as well, what's going on. So it's a really good time to meditate and just find out more about what's happening or what this means for you during this moon. So she's given us the keywords known and unknown, liminality, and open-mindedness. So it's certainly a time to be aware, keep your mind open to what you're being shown as well. And the little story is a J gliding between the known and the unknown, connecting the way that things are and the way that things could be. So if we bear in mind that a full moon will be illuminating and bringing clarity, so that's what's being illuminated for you by this sun in Leo. Master of navigating this liminal space, the Aquarius J is consistently thinking outside the box and connecting disparate worlds by bridging the gaps. It's not a resident of here or there, and it's reminding us that the spaces in between are the places where we find the unique perspectives and the innovative thought. Now is the time to leave the tried and tested behind in favour of an independent, out of the ordinary, or inventive approach to the matter at hand. So, yeah, when you get to this full moon, certainly look out for that kind of innovative thought coming in, which is certainly an Aquarian thing. It's thought of as the outsider, particularly if this is impacting your chart, you're a fixed sign, or you've got anything in the air triad around those degrees. That's a really good time to look out for those kind of things happening around you as well, that you bring in, particularly with the disruption from the Mars-Saturn opposition. But also we mustn't forget Neptune there, bringing in that otherworldly experience in our dreams as well, all coming into that mix.
Well, I was just looking back at in 2022, Saturn was in Aquarius, at home in Aquarius, and it's stationed right around that degree. So I looked up in October 23rd, 2022, Saturn stationed at 18 degrees. So very close to this point. So even just like looking back at, look at the Aquarius house in your chart, look at any sort of thing that Saturn was getting ready to take forward because Saturn was stationed to go direct. And, it's within like a degree and a half of this moment, this full moon. A lot of times the moon can like illuminate these other things, can translate other things that the planets have already spoken about. So if you see some sort of tie-in from late October 2022, and it was 3 years ago, but you can kind of look back in your photo library on your phone to see what you were doing around then. Or and the reason why it came up is that Saturn station was very loud for me personally, and so I'm looking at it as a reflection of that story and how that story has changed in the last 3 years and has improved and isn't as heavy. And I have more perspective on it having a couple of years out. But all these touch points, they're like, it's almost like the planets tuning into a certain radio station and turning up the volume at these moments of especially full moons of illumination, because the moon is such a great translator of the rest of the sky for us. And a shout out to all of the Aquarius moons out there.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, that would have been around the time that we were all signing up for Nightlight for our first year, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So that was our fated meeting as well.
Yeah, we started Nightlight on November 12th. I remember that because that's also kind of a fated day for me. So just a few weeks before we met was that Saturn station. And now look at us. We're talking about the full moon like years later.
Full circle. And look what's come out of it as well, like an enduring friendship as well as colleagues as well. Yeah. So, I mean, that's an example of how Saturn builds something that's enduring as well, like out of the box. It was a sudden decision for me. I think a couple of Adam's videos that just really cut through. And I was like, no, that's my teacher. I was like searching for a teacher at the time. And having a difficult time. And it was out of a difficult time that want to, and I think it was similar for you, to study and do serious study. And that's what Saturn brings us, that serious study and commitment. So sometimes we need that malefic push to get down to work.
Well, and I had an actual physical reaction to that station. I was having a reading by an astrologer. I had spent that whole year getting reading from astrologers that I liked, just to kind of get an idea of how I could be an astrologer too. So I was kind of shopping around, just seeing other people's styles, and I was getting a reading by Dan Waits, and I was really struggling at the way I was describing it. It felt like I had a sinus infection because my head was so heavy. It felt like someone was sitting on top of me, where my top teeth hurt. It felt this pressure of like just being squished. And Saturn was had stationed on my IC and had retrograded back and stationed on my south node. And that's where it was kind of going forward. So like the physical manifestation sometimes of Saturn feels like you're being just in a vice grip, a universal vice grip. And, Saturn contains it and it likes to create containers. But in Aquarius, it's an air sign. So you think air just flows, but you can have fixed ideas about things. You can have ideas that are limiting and squishing and constrictive and don't allow growth. Like the sun illuminates and disinfects and allows growth. So is this full moon also showing you like painful restrictions just of the mind? The ideas and the thoughts that you think that you have, like letting them be released and allowing yourself to change your mind to then grow beyond that. That is a revolutionary thing, to kind of break out of your own ideas about yourself. Or if you're Aquarius first house, that would be self, like ideas of relationships. If you're Leo first house, I mean, you can look at the Aquarius house and just what sort of illumination is coming during this weekend? Because I don't think that it'll be necessarily pleasurable. I feel like it's going to be a tougher weekend. But if in an air sign, we can navigate as long as we create that intellectual flow and that idea and social flow to help break free from those constricting ideas, limiting beliefs, limiting thoughts, so that you don't feel like you're just under pressure. That's how I felt when it was Saturn. Specifically, the moon tells a very different story, but the moon can illuminate those physical manifestations.
Yeah. And somebody said to me once, just look at the glyph of Aquarius and imagine the air flowing through it. And you can see that it's not the smooth ride that it is in Libra. It's bumpy. It's like turbulence, and you're kind of hitting your head against the ceiling, then you're hitting violently. So that's kind of like the experience of like a Saturn transit. It's this, it's that. But then you come out the other side and things flow smoothly again.
You know what it reminds me of? In Ireland, when you drive from Dublin west, you can drive along the middle of the country. It's called the Wild Atlantic Way, and the road sign for that path is the Aquarius squiggles. And so to drive across Ireland, you take the Wild Atlantic Way, and you're driving towards the wild west of Ireland. And so I've always really liked the Aquarius sigil just because it reminds me of that journey that I once took, that I will take again at some point, of driving through rugged rural Ireland to see that the Atlantic Ocean in Ireland is very, very wild. It's very loud and a good place to get lost in. All right, so that leads us up to the full moon. Again, it'll be a lot. We have other things that are about to perfect, like Mercury is about to go direct. It'll go direct a few days later. Is this a Friday? Let me look and see. I'll look real quick. This is a Saturday.
I think the second chart is the 11th and the 12th. So I think the second chart is Venus, Jupiter.
Yeah, so the night of the full moon is a Saturday, and then on the 11th is a Monday. That's when Mercury is going to go direct, and then on Tuesday is the Venus Jupiter conjunction in Cancer. That's the next chart we're looking at? Yeah.
And then Mercury goes direct to 04. It's 04:14, so we're just a couple of minutes off in this chart.
Yeah,
but it was close enough to get both. And yeah, we spoke about Mercury last week when Mercury had the Cazimi, and it's just got one more retrograde in Sagittarius in November. And just thinking about it going direct, we spoke about that a little bit before, that Mercury is the herald and in the philosopher phase now as a morning star. Going direct, it's just those are thoughts, the communication technology, and those things in Leo about our authenticity and our self-image and our sovereignty, that Mercury's maybe communicating to us or communicating to others about us, like our ideas of self and how we're showing up as well, and how we're able to speak our truth. Maybe I wonder if that's maybe a thing that might have been harder during the retrograde, and now we're receiving clarity about how we want to do that and how we need to do that. But it will still be in shadow, as we discussed before, until
September 4th. When is it? No, it's like 15 degrees is when it retrogrades.
It'll be the 25th of August that it's in shadow until when it gets to 15 degrees before where the sun is now. It'll be out of its shadow. So it's a little bit of time where we're still working on the same things that have come up when we talk about it being in shadow. It's like, yes, it's moving in direct, but those same themes are still there. But we're no longer going back to things from the past. We're more dealing with it in a way where we're going forward now and finding resolutions to it. When it's retrograde, it's more we're going inward and we're thinking about things, but not necessarily finding solutions. I found before, when my tech's not working, that I can just leave it because I'm unlikely to resolve it during the retrograde. But once Mercury goes direct, I can just turn it on and off again. And it will work. And Mercury will just sort it out himself. If it's one of those things during a retrograde, you can spend hours and not get anywhere. If I know there's a retrograde, it's like, I will just wait and see if it resolves itself once Mercury's direct. And that is often the case, so often.
Yeah, I've been experiencing like my printer and my laptop getting really hot, and it's like retrograde and a fire sign. And so I just turn it off and let it cool down. And so that I don't get all heated with it, I just went to a different printer and just let them deal with it. And then they gave me my printing for free. So it kind of worked out.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, like walking away and just being like, I'm just going to make this worse. It's just going to ruin my day if I try to fix it when something else is going on. Just walk away from it if you can.
Yeah, if you're able to. Sometimes you can't if you're traveling or something. And I think when you're traveling, just double check everything. And obviously we're talking about being direct, but it is kind of like a surrendering to what's going on. And if we surrender, things go that bit easier. Whereas if you're struggling and fighting against it, it's going to be much harder. And I think if you're traveling, it's just know that Mercury's direct, know that things are you're going to get setbacks, you're going to get delays. Just understand that that's part of it. Bake that into your traveling. Make sure that you don't have to be somewhere at a certain time. Or if you do, allow double time.
Yeah, I just traveled during a Mercury retrograde. It reminds me while I was traveling, my friend Mary Jane out in Oregon, she always has such great advice. She's like my friendly mentor just because she's just so wise. And she said, you know, it's an adventure when at some point you find yourself thinking, I wish I was at home on my own couch. Like that's when it's an adventure, truly, when you kind of wish that you weren't there anymore. That's part of it, you know, the adaptability and the slowing down, the reflection. Mercury rules not just communication and technology, but money and commerce. Sometimes there's a flow or a stagnation or an old debt that comes back that you've got to pay, and dealing with that during the retrograde is great. It's great remediation to Mercury to be like, okay, I'm gonna take care of this and not let it linger so it doesn't fester. And this is we're in the middle of the Mercury and fire retrograde. Like you said, we're going to have one in Sagittarius, and then next year we're going to have a very, very long one in Pisces. So by comparison, I think this one it might be more hot-headed, but less lengthy.
Yeah, I think we said last week the Pisces one is the one to watch because it's likely to be one of the most challenging. So
yeah,
if it affects your chart, it's worth having the heads up to know that that's coming and plan around it.
Maybe don't try to travel during that time.
We got this lovely Venus and Jupiter. It's interesting that these are happening around the same time. We had something similar with the ingress, didn't we? Because Emi was happening at the same time, and now Venus has reached Jupiter. Those two benefics meeting, just that nice end of the week for us. We always say this too shall pass with the difficult things, but also this will pass quite quickly because Venus moves faster than Mars, but Venus being like the law of attraction and bringing things together, being all those things that we enjoy: love, friendship, beauty, sensuality, desire, pleasure, everything nice that we tend to enjoy together, like social interactions and everything. And then Jupiter just signifying order and unity and law, nobility, abundance, but also bringing good luck and expansiveness. And then them two coming together, just making everything like that bigger.
Yeah.
You can imagine that. It just feels, and in the sign of Cancer, the sign of the moon, which is such a feel-good place of nurturing and loving and caring. You know, you never see a Cancer person who isn't caring about everybody to their own detriment sometimes, where they're just caring too much about everybody around them. So it's a really caring place to have this happen. It's just nice to see the moon in a water sign here, trining that, like shining the support. Trine is the nature of Jupiter as well. So the moon is just shining abundance as well onto it from this Piscean place of dreaminess.
And the moon is at the 27th degree of Pisces, which is Venus's exaltation degree and sign. Like the moon is in a really great spot that Venus likes to be, you know, so I love that connection.
Yeah, it's just really, you look at it and you just can't help smiling, can you, after the bumpy week?
Yeah.
Connecting with all those outers and just not being able to put a nice spin on it other than look for what needs to change and how it's changing, and know that it's coming. Be kind to people while that's happening. Know that this is coming.
Yeah. And I think that we're going to look at kind of the season or the synodic cycle between Venus and Jupiter from this moment. It's not just a moment that happens once and then is done. You know, any sort of planets that come together, they have a cycle of relationship with each other. And I mean, Venus has just gotten into Cancer, and like less than 2 weeks later, she's right there at that middle degree. So it is a quick, perfected aspect. But these two will have a relationship over the next year or 10 months. And, you know, we can look at that as a seeding point that, you know, if whatever happens in this moment, if it kind of misses you or you're like, well, was that it? Feel like we're going to see it unfold. And you can look back on, you know, when, you know, they come together, you know, frequently, and they have their little stories through the signs from which they meet. But because Jupiter is only in Cancer once every 12 years, you know, we only get this sort of story every, you know, decade plus. So it's kind of nice that we get to experience it now. And then we'll give you some dates to then track it in the future and see how the story that's being seeded at this first conjunction, this kind of new moon moment with Jupiter and Venus, how that might unfold for the next year.
Yeah, because of Jupiter being exalted in Cancer, that makes this even more rare and even more precious, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It just lifts it to another level, which is beyond a Jupiter-Venus conjunction
Right.
in any other sign other than Pisces, where Venus is exalted. Jupiter is the greater malefic. I still feel like the Cancer one is the top of the 12-year the 12-year meetings that they have. It's like this is the highlighted one. Yeah.
The greater benefic. You call Jupiter the greater malefic.
Sorry. Good catch.
Like, wait a minute. Saturn is over there giving you the death stare.
Yeah. Apologies, Saturn. Apologies, Jupiter. The greater benefic. Get my words right. So don't miss that next week. We're going to be looking at that cycle. So definitely catch us next week, because it might have some insights for you.
Yeah. Well, what are your plans for this conjunction?
I'm still thinking, but definitely we need to plan something nice. Or maybe even launch. We're going to have an eclipse workshop coming up. Maybe that's a good date to launch it or put it on sale. Or
yeah, that's a good idea. I mean, this is going to happen, I think, like 1:30 in the morning Eastern time. So basically Monday night over into Tuesday morning. So in the UK, it'll be right at sunrise. You might have a nice electional chart of this being right at the horizon. I'll have to look at it at your location. And so this will be fairly late at night on the west coast of the US. So again, it's leading up through the full moon weekend, but then Monday is when they really start to join together. They perfect overnight, at least for the States, and then early in the morning in the UK and Europe. And so if you were going to try to plan something, even if it's just intention setting and kind of mapping out, what you would like to accomplish in the Cancer house, or the Cancer house, the Pisces house, the Sagittarius house, the Taurus house, the houses that are ruled by these benefics, the Libra house, you can plan on that Monday on the 11th, which is the day that Mercury goes direct. So it kind of coincides with this. And I think that would be a good just electional day to just try it out. So yeah, thanks everybody. And it'll be us next week.
Yeah, we'll see you next week. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you've enjoyed this.
Bye everybody.
Bye.